Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. And I always love to start this podcast by saying thank you. I started this podcast as a way of guiding people on their spiritual journey and really kind of simplifying spirituality. And the messages we receive on a weekly basis really confirm that journey. And the fact is making a difference. So thank you. I'm just a quick intro. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And I love the work I get to do to guide people to truly shine the light. I really do feel that we've been pushed to really ask why we're here. And the work we get to do, the work I get to do, is to really guide people on that journey. This podcast wouldn't be where it is without my beautiful co-host, the healer extraordinaire, and now published author, Stacey Brown. Hey, Stace, it wouldn't be the same unless I introduced you in that way, right?
We've been doing this for a while now, Nim, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of used to it. It still makes me laugh, though.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Stace. I
Yeah,
mean,
friend.
I don't think you could do it the same way as I did it, but go for it.
It's good to be here. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm a spiritual mentor and coach. I am also an Akashic record reader. I love recording podcast episodes with you, Nims. It's one of my joys, and I love pouring into people. And I'm a recently published author. My book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, is available on Amazon and Audible. And I'm really looking forward to this topic today.
Yeah, so am I. And so we typically pick podcast topics in advance, but this one actually we picked just before we started recording. It was just tapping into the current energy, and we felt this was a perfect topic for the current energy. And I feel the energy right now is pretty much focus on this moment. Any illusion we have over any control is really just an illusion. If you look at everything's happened this year, but also the last few years, we really, from the lockdown onwards, have we really had any control? And if we could really let go of our need for control and just focus on this moment, I really believe life becomes simpler, and we can decide how we feel in this moment, and that has an influence on the next moment. So today's topic is faith over fear, letting go of control. And that really is about a trustful, right? Letting go of what the future may look like. Of course, we've still got to do the self-care. We've still got to meet the universe halfway. But how much are we willing to let go of the control and truly trust in whatever's coming next? So, Stace, since I've known you, your life's changed a lot. Actually, so has mine. But your life is definitely was turned on its head in so many different ways, and I guess you probably had an image of what the future is going to hold, but you really have been somebody that has really embraced whatever's happening in the moment. Sometimes whether you want to do or not, but you really have embraced and trustful after trustful. So when I talk about this topic to you, and when we talked about it before we began, how does it make you feel?
Well, it makes me kind of reflect on how I handle things. And I'm a super anxious person by nature. I have been since I was a little girl, like as far back as I can remember. And I think a lot of that came from the dynamic that I had specifically with my parents and how things were handled in my home growing up. And it became something very familiar to me to operate in a space of anxiety, to make decisions out of that space, to walk through every day in that space. It's whether it was a homework assignment that was due, whether it was an interaction with somebody that I was anticipating. I just feel like it's how I've run my life. And in this season in particular, I'm recognizing that it doesn't really serve me. It doesn't serve me to be so anxious about what's coming next. And it's something that I'm really working hard to shift in my life because I recognize that when I'm in that space, I don't feel that my decisions are as aligned as they could be when I'm in that fear-based mentality. And I my life has changed a lot. My life has changed significantly, and I don't know about our listeners, but does life ever turn out the way that you expect it to? Like that image of what you think that your life is going to turn out as, when you trace back to being a child and you look at your life now, would you have anticipated that you would be where you are right now in your life today when you were a kid? I mean, I would never have fathomed that my life would be where it is right now. And I mean that in some really big and beautiful ways. And I mean that in some really sad ways too. I'm like, Nims, am I 3 years out from my divorce now?
Yeah, I think it's 3
About
years. Yeah,
about
3 years.
3 years. And I would say there's still some sadness around it. There's still some grieving happening. There's still some kind of acceptance and reflection and that kind of thing that's still happening 3 years later. And I think to myself sometimes, like, Stacey, are you ever going to be over this? Like, are you ever going to be able to like move past this part of your life? Because there's just this kind of, in the quiet moments, this lingering thing that I feel that I don't really know how to explain. And yet my life wouldn't be where it is right now had I stayed married. And I'm grateful for the life that I've created. So it's a very conflicting space to be in at times. But I think today is very appropriate that we're recording this episode. Um, I'm heading to the UK again. I leave Sunday, and I have worked really hard to create an experience for my daughter, my youngest daughter, to be able to go on this trip with me. She has never even been on an airplane before. So this is a big, big adventure for her. And as luck would have it, her dad, who I share custody with, got COVID. And he tested positive this past week. And here we are, less than a week out from our trip. And he's wanting to see her and she's wanting to see him. And I'm in this position right now where I'm trying to make a decision about when to allow that to happen. And I don't want to make the decision based out of fear, right? But there's part of me that recognizes that the stakes are high because we have this trip planned. So I'm in this space today where I'm faced with making a decision about something that I feel is out of my control in a certain way. And then in another way, I'm feeling like I have the control because I'm the one making the decision about when the two of them see each other and how that happens. So it's a very interesting space to be in when you're doing the dance between trusting in the moment, trusting that whatever is meant to happen will happen, and that little voice that we all have in our heads, that fear-based voice that sometimes can take over. And I am definitely doing that dance today, Nims.
Yeah, I can see that. And as you say, I know you don't want to hear this, but if she's meant to get COVID, she'll get COVID, right? And
Mhm.
it's just it's 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 even interesting, right? If we go back to the second time you visited the UK, you're going to be here for a month, and it's when we channeled the book and mentorship program we do and all that sort of stuff. So it was a kind of a pivotal trip in terms of the stuff that we were creating. But you were still married at the time, and your husband got COVID, and there was chaos around there in terms of what do you do? How do you? And everything worked out in the end, right? But it's just interesting how the universe has jokes, right? It does like to keep us on our toes. It does like to, challenge us, because part of that is our expansion. And just maybe for our listeners, if you just go back to who you were in 2021, maybe, right? And just think about everything you've been through, and really, could you have imagined how much change, how much, and I guess for most people, it has been emotional, right? It has been a lot of change, a lot of endings in terms of relationships, a lot of just changes in what we thought was going to happen in reality. And it just, I don't always like to encourage people to go in the past, but some reflection on where you've been and how much you've grown is important. So I'd love for our listeners to just, go on that journey and really ask yourself, hold on, how did you expand over the last few years? How much? And then you think about this moment, and it's like, why do we want to control things? We want to control things because it's our ego. It's our ego not wanting to change, because if we change, there's a risk that we may fall. But ultimately, change is the only constant. And it's really interesting how we as humans, for a lot of us, change is scary. But then the way the universe is created, change is the only constant. It's really interesting when you look at the dilemmas that the universe gives us. And then, again, the reason I asked everyone to go back the last few years, maybe then you'll realize that control is really just an illusion. And the more that we try and hold on, the more it does impact us emotionally and mentally. It impacts our well-being. Because we want to control it. We want to control it so much. We want to understand it. And everybody right now can feel there's a lot of change happening inside them and around them. They can feel something's coming. For some people, they do the healing, they do the internal work, and they start to kind of just process. Other people, it translates into anger, into frustration, because they can't understand it. And whichever option you pick is perfect for you, right? There's no right or wrong. But it is really that time where in some way we're all being awakened. And we don't know what the universe has planned for us. But we know that in some way we've been activated. And certainly if you listen to this podcast, I feel like you probably know something's happening to you spiritually, your gifts. And this is the time to let go of that need for control. And I get I make it sound easy, right? I'd love to know what's coming next. I can feel it. I mean, I made the decision in January this year to leave a very senior corporate role. I've been in the corporate world for 30 years and been done very well out of it. So I was successful, had a senior role, and it's like, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, this is the role you're going to be at, I'm like, oh my God, that's great. I mean, I'd be excited and be like, but actually I didn't feel connected to it anymore. And, as Stacey was saying, it's like, where did I thought my life was going to go? I thought I was going to lead what I thought was a normal life, programmed, starting a corporate career, become very successful, get married. As I said, I have 2.4 kids. I don't know where 0.4 kids comes from, but, but that isn't what my soul had planned for me. I wouldn't be the healer that I am today if I went through whatever that life looks like. And Stacey, the last few years has been, divorce, moving into your own place, giving up on the dream home that you had, but also, you're in a very loving relationship with the partner that's in the UK, not even in London, in Yorkshire. It's like crazy. If you're gonna pick things, you're gonna pick simple things, right? But it's all part of the journey. And who knew? I mean, when I met you on Clubhouse all those years ago, and I decided to have a conversation with you, and that started this healing business and stuff that we've created. We didn't know. Where that was going to take us and how much change. And but our need for control is natural, and our fear is also natural. But the fear and the control keeps us stuck. And I really believe the universe is going to push us to expand our gifts, to shine our light in the way it's meant to. And the more that we have that fear, the more that we need of control, the harder it's going to get for us. So, and again, I make it sound easy, but the more that you can work on the self-care, and the more that you spend time in nature, the more that you meditate, the more that you're present in some sort of physical activity, that allows you to center yourself. And then when you're in that centered space, you can start to feel at ease with what's going around you. You can talk to your ego and say, you know what? I know you're trying to keep me safe, but it's okay. We've got this. We need our head and our heart. It's not like we can live, but actually, really, we need to start making more heart-led decisions than head-led decisions. And this is really the phase that we're in, that we've got to let go and just trust in whatever's coming next. And, honestly, everybody's going through it. So treat others with kindness, because honestly, they're going through some sort of identity crisis too. So, Stace, how do you feel about what's coming next for you?
Is it okay to say I'm scared shitless on this podcast?
I guess it is. I guess it is.
I mean, I always keep it real. I don't know how else to be. And so if we're talking about the head part of things, I'm scared. Okay. So let's just talk about the head right now. And in my head, I can think of a million ways that things are going to spin out of my control or go in a direction that I don't want them to, or how, the universe doesn't have my back and I'm going to be homeless on the street. I can think of a million different things through my head that are concerning me or flags, right?
Yeah, we've had some conversations. I was like, where's that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And,
But a lot of it comes from my dad. My dad was super, super successful. He was super successful. And we lived in a big, beautiful home, and all of our needs were met. And he drove a nice car, he had a good job, all of those things. And yet, because he spent a large portion of his childhood barely getting by, his parents struggled so much, that fear was instilled in him, and that fear guided him. And even through his success, there was this fear that he was going to fail us, his family, or that he was not going to be enough. I never remember a time of seeing him in his success where he truly embraced it and trusted it. I saw him constantly questioning what was going to happen next. And so I think we learn by example a lot of the time. And that example was set for me that even if you're doing really well, there's still the concern that everything could be taken away from you in a moment, at a moment's notice. So in my head, I would say there's a lot of my dad, right? A lot of that fear-based thinking. In my heart, I have no idea what is next or how it's going to work out, but I see that it's been working out for the last however long, right? I mean, I never would have anticipated my life being where it is right now. And somehow I've managed to move forward in a really challenging season in a really beautiful way. So in my heart, I'm like, this is going to work out. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out, but I trust it. My issue is sometimes my head is louder than my heart. And I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but sometimes the outside noise of the world, the concerns, the ego can be very loud. And the soul, for me, is more of a whisper. Like that, the heart-led decisions, the soul-led decisions tend to be coming through for me in more of a whisper. And the louder voice is the ego. And sometimes that ego definitely overrides the soul that's whispering. And for me, I go back and forth between the two. And I feel like it takes some really active discipline to listen to the heart versus the head, because it's a whisper. It's not something that I think for a lot of us comes naturally, especially when we have so much being fired at us from the outside world, right? We've got social media in our faces, which is robbing people of their joy because we're comparing ourselves to others. This person went on this vacation, or this person has this beautiful relationship, or this person just bought a new car, or whatever it is. And we sit there and say, well, why not me? Why is this not happening to me? And so I think there's this dance that we all do between the two, where we're really struggling between our heart and our head. And so I guess my question is, how do you quiet the outside noise of the world so that you can listen more to your heart?
It's an interesting question, and it's like anything, it's a muscle. And like I said earlier, in terms of the meditation, in terms of the silent time, the time in nature, that is a practice to quiet the head so you can listen to your heart more. But it is the more that you listen to the whispers of your heart, the more that you'll start to hear them. And Stacey, you wouldn't be where you are today if you hadn't listened to the whispers, right? The whispers that said that your marriage was over. The whispers that said you couldn't stay in that house. The whispers that said that, you needed to stop hairdressing and become a healer. What you went through, and for those that haven't read your book, when your son did what he did when he drove his car 100 miles per hour into a tree, and all the healing that led afterwards, and you listened to your messages all through that, was you trusting the whispers of your heart. And there isn't a magic silver formula here apart from doing the work of finding that peace within you. And your answers come within you, and it's always important to take time to listen to those answers. But we know what the messages from our intuition, from our heart are. It's just the ego that steps in, and it's just you having the ability to talk to your ego and just saying it's okay and trusting in those. And look, sometimes trusting in your heart is scary. Some of the decisions you made for you were scary. Me leaving the corporate world, I'm removing the safety blanket that's been there with me for years, and who knows what it's going to lead to. But it is trusting, removing those safety blankets and trusting in whatever's coming next. I really believe the universe is not going to give us anything we can't handle, but I also get it's scary. This phase is scary. And it's interesting. You went on researcher mode, and you went into that phase of understanding where that phase is coming from. This coming from your childhood, the way your dad was, and becoming that researcher, understanding where that fear comes from, does help you to heal it. That is part of it, right? The stages we go through, the first stage is always awareness. And you can't become aware of what's happening inside you, where that fear is coming from, without going and asking some of those questions. Hold on, when did I first feel this fear? What was I going through? And okay, how do I feel about it now? And starting to establish, okay, you know what? There was some things that you experienced as a child that is influencing your fears today. And then with that awareness, and obviously it's a journey, but with that awareness, the next stage is always acceptance. Because it's like, once we become aware, oh my God, I can't believe that I've let my dad influence me all these years. I wish I knew this earlier, and all this internal voice. You haven't got a time machine. Things come up for you when you're ready to receive them, and there's a divine timing to them. So the next stage is always acceptance, accepting who you are, where you are. And then from there, you start to love yourself, and then decide what you want to do next. So it is a journey. And, Stacey, a lot of the work we do, we take people on that journey, right, to truly understand who they are and what's happening. But it isn't, look, we're a soul having human experience, and the human experience and, the pain that goes through it is an important part of our soul's expansion. The trick is, and, I use this phrase a lot, but pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And the trick is to experience the pain, but not sit with it. And that's the difficult part is, and I do feel like over the last few years, we've all gone through a lot of pain. We've all gone through a rebirth. And, I was just reading a post earlier about someone was asking, well, hold on, why have I lost all my friends over the past few years and all that sort of stuff? And it's kind of true. It's like so many people I speak to, the friend circle has gotten so much smaller. And, it is because we're going through this rebirth. And what happens when we're going through the rebirth? The universe protects us and keeps our circle small. And ultimately, I love the phrase whether you use God or whether you universe source, God removes those people from your path because he hears the conversations they have when you're not around. So I really do believe the universe supports us by removing those people that aren't meant to be on a path. And ultimately, also, as we do the work on ourselves and as we raise our vibration, we're not here to force other people to do the same. We're here to set that example. And some people won't want to do and raise their vibration. And you know what? That's okay. Because, I remember when I first started doing this healing work, I wanted to heal everybody around me. Oh my God, let's do this. Let's do it. But some people are not assigned to me. I'm not here to fix people. And that's also the acceptance of, and really, it's our expectation of what the future is going to look like. And it is comparison, right? Comparing yourself to others, especially through social media, is the worst thing you can do because, Cedric always used to call Facebook fake book because everyone posts an image of what their life looks like, or how many people are really vulnerable and honest about. And say, Stacey, I've seen you, post being vulnerable is one way you can be, but it's like most people post a highlight reel, right? So don't compare yourself. Know that and again, I make it sound easy, but know that you're a soul having a unique experience. And you chose to be here. You're needed, you're wanted, and you chose to be here. And that really is the quicker that we can accept who we are, allows us to truly, and maybe I sound a little crazy, but I'm excited about the future because I can feel there's so much change. It's like spiritually, so many spiritual teachers, whatever you want to call them, are talking about the shift from third dimension to the fifth dimension. And what does that really look like? This is what we're going through. It's like, it's a mass awakening. It's a kind of everybody's being pushed to really ask and consider, what am I here to do? What am I here to, how am I here to provide a service, whatever that looks like? How do I activate my gifts? It's an exciting time for you to truly activate who you are. But it's a difficult time because what you're going through, what everyone's going through is a rebirth. So that means what rebirth looks like is every facet of you is changing. And so many of us are holding on to the old version of ourselves because it's that old version that has made us who we are today. And also, if we let go of that old version, what if we don't like the new version? What if whatever's coming, is amazing? Because the other thing is that when we have expectations of what magic looks like, we miss magic when it really happens. Because so many of us are waiting for a big epiphany, big flash in the sky. And when we get little bits of magic, we miss it because it's not in the box that we expected it to be. I mean, perfect example, right? You were not expecting to have your daughter all this time because she was supposed to be with her dad. But you got to experience more time with her, right? There's a reason for that. There's I'm not used to having people stay with me, and I've had some friends stay with me for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's my home is just my sacred space. It's like my base chakra. And the friends I'm staying, I love, right? They're great people. And sure, I loved having them here. But also there was times when, I'm used to my own space. So, it's like, but again, if you're listening, I loved having you here. But at the same time, it's interesting how the universe is making us experience things differently. And the biggest thing you can do right now is accept you. Know that you're needed and stop comparing yourself, because everybody really is struggling with something right now, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally, whether it's all of the above, whether it's fear of your career, whatever it is. We're all going through massive change. I keep talking about this year being intense, and I keep wanting this year to be less intense. I'm always like, yep, we're just going through an intense period. I feel like I'm repeating myself. All year I've been saying, yes, we're going through an intense period, expecting the intensity to change and reduce. Honestly, the intensity hasn't reduced. It's changed, but it's still, I wanted to swear and I won't. It is fucking intense. Sorry. Excuse everyone if that offends anybody, but it is intense. And it's meant to be. So actually, I now realize it's not meant to get any less intense. It's different. Right now, the energy is all about ourselves. It's all about what do we need to do to shine our light. So my recommendation for everyone that's listening is, what can you do to shine your light on you? Don't be guilty. And if you got kids, I get it. It's like, oh my God, what do you mean? But what example are you setting yourself when you don't put yourself first? What example could you be setting by doing something for you and explaining to your kids why that's important? Stacey, I went off at a bit of a rant. I know you asked me a question, and there was so much in what you said too, in terms of comparison, in terms of, kind of accepting where we are right now. I channeled it from somewhere, but how did you relate to that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's intense. I think that we're going through a very intense season. I think a lot of people are feeling it for sure. I think a lot of people are churning about it and what next steps to take and how to navigate it. And I will say it's something that I couldn't have done alone. I absolutely could not have navigated the process of understanding myself and where I want to be. I could not have done that alone. For me, it took people coming into my life and helping me and guiding me along the way. And even now, I need that guidance, right? There are so many times where I reach out for help and I'm not sure what to do next. And I have some pretty good disciplines, things that I actively do to care for myself, to nurture myself. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come without its challenges, even now, right? And being faced with this decision about, when is my daughter okay to see her dad? Like that decision has been placed with me. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. The risk is high, right? Like right now, I know that she's not sick and she's with me. And the bonus to that is that we've made some amazing memories in this additional time that we've had with each other. She just recently celebrated a birthday, and we had plans to take some friends to the movies. And I was the one to do that with her. I was the one to kind of take her on the last several days of adventures and do things with her. And it was incredible. Like it's so funny because, okay, talk about trying to plan your life out. So friends, just to give you an idea, like the end of my week this last week was kind of quiet. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take control of this. I want to see more clients. Let's get some more readings in. Let's do some more work. Like I was in work mode and I was ready to go. And so I do all this advertising, letting people know, like, I have this downtime. I would love to see you. And then, boom, my daughter's father gets sick. And I come to realize the universe showed me this free time, quote unquote, because I was meant to be with my daughter, not because I was meant to be working. And it was funny because the control freak in me was ticked off that I didn't have more work going on in those couple of days, right? Like, but by chance, the way circumstances would play out, that time was meant for my daughter. That time was meant for me to nurture extra time with her. And I couldn't see that. The universe had it laid out, right? Universe, God, my higher power had it laid
Always.
out and said, you know what? We're going to make sure that you have this extra time with your daughter and you're going to have this free time. But that's not how I was seeing it. So in my world, I wanted to control it. And I wanted to say, okay, universe, I'm open, so I'm going to make myself busy. But in me trying to make myself busy, had I done that, I wouldn't have had the time with my daughter. And so there's this dance that I feel like we have to do between being prepared and being armored up and ready for whatever's coming next, right? Like mentally preparing ourselves, whatever you want to say. There's this dance that we do where we kind of try to anticipate what's coming next and surrender. And I had to do more of the surrender in this process than I did the preparation of anticipating what was next. And in that surrender, I've had these beautiful days with my daughter that you can't put a price tag on, right? You can't put a price tag on the fact that we've had these beautiful memories together. And so I've had to relinquish control, and I've had to be okay with the idea that things are going to look different than what I expected. And it goes back to the same thing. When do things ever look the way that we expect them to? Right? And when they do, when things work out with our expectations, right? Like there's this part of us that thinks that's how it's supposed to be. But when we let go of control and allow whatever is going to happen, I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And had somebody said to me, you're going to have your daughter all these extra days, you're going to have to plan activities with her, you're going to have to do all these things with her. And if I had been busy with work, oh my gosh, I would have been so stressed out. But the
Yeah.
universe had my back and said, no, we're going to make sure that you're not busy during these couple of days because you need this time with your daughter. And so I was able to really lean into that time because I didn't feel torn about missing clients, missing work, I wasn't missing anything. Nothing was
Yeah.
missing. I was
That's so
exactly where I was meant to be. I was exactly in the position where I was meant to be and exactly what the universe wanted from me. And now I'm going into the next phase of that. And I realize as I'm talking this out, I've got to trust that whatever is about to happen next with her seeing her father and with us going on our trip, whatever is going to happen is going to happen and is part of the plan.
and that's the beauty. If you could have quite easily got stuck in the, oh my God, I'm traveling in a week's time, I've got so much to do, all that sort of stuff. And I've got to do more work and all that sort of stuff. But at some point you let go. And you appreciated the magic. And that's the thing, is if we could let go, the universe definitely has a plan for us. And I mean, I know we normally would do journal prompts at the end, and but I feel like, asking our listeners, stop and breathe and check in with yourself. What expectation are you holding on to that is keeping you stuck? And if you could release that expectation and trust it in whatever's coming next, how would that feel? Because it is our expectations. It's our wanting to control. It's our ego. And the other thing is taking time to just talk to our ego and just, when we're working with clients, I always ask our clients to name their ego. So maybe, sure, if you're struggling with your ego, give it a name, and maybe give it a silly name. Maybe give it a voice, and then have a conversation with your ego, and kind of let your ego know that you don't need protection. But I really do believe the universe wants us to feel the magic. And Stace, it's easier when you see it for other people. I know I'm blessed in so many ways, but I've seen the universe show up for you. But I've also seen you, go through a lot of change and a lot of emotional roller coaster that goes with it. But whatever you focus on expands. So you could focus on the pain of everything you've gone through last few years, or you could focus on the amount of healing we've done, the amount of people that we worked with, and the ripple effect that's going to have. My objective is to heal millions, and I know the way I'm going to do that with the people that we mentor, the people I mentor, will then impact other people, and the ripple effect means that if we help one person, we could be helping millions. That's the power we have if we let go. And I want to just remind people of some of the things they could work on, right? Just from a practical perspective, doing the journaling on what are you holding on to, having a conversation with your ego is a part of it. But again, there's some of the things we talked about, like mindfulness, meditation, things like that is important. Breathing, breath work, being present, journaling, so powerful. Intentional gratitude. Pick things that you're so grateful for and be specific. It's great. It's easy to say, I'm grateful for my kids, but oh, you know what? What are you grateful for? It's summer holidays right now. I'm sure some parents out there are a little frustrated, but what are the beautiful moments that you've created with your kids over the last few days? And be specific, because when you're specific, what you're doing is you're creating a magic moment for you, but you're also saying to the universe, create more of these beautiful magic moments. But here's the other thing is you can only appreciate those magic moments if you are in the moment. Because if you're somewhere else, if you worry about the amount of work you got to do or whatever else, you miss these magic moments. And being present, things like affirmations and visualizing. But here's my question for you, Stace. What does surrender and trustful really look like?
I mean, it's the scariest, most beautiful thing in the world. I mean, it is to say, I mean, like right now, I'm in a relationship that is long distance, very long distance, and I have no idea what's next with that. I know what I feel. I know that it's something special, but how it's going to play out, I don't know. And I have to trust that and trust the moment that I'm in right now, that this is what I feel. And I'm going to trust it, even though I don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm going to go one step at a time. But I would say that for me, surrender takes being very present. Instead of anticipating what's next, it's about being in this moment. And in this moment, knowing that I'm safe and that everything that's happening is for my highest good, even if I can't see it. And it for me is saying in this moment, I'm going to let go of my need to control whatever the outcome is, because we don't really have control. It's an illusion, right? It's all an illusion. And so for
100%.
me, it's letting it play out and saying, okay, whatever you have for me, whatever it is, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and that's so beautifully said. It really is letting go and just being present in the moment. What can you appreciate in this moment? Allowing the magic of this moment, because that's really all we control is this moment. It's just, and we keep saying the illusion of control, and it is hard to let go of it. But if you can just look at just the recent times, few months, few years, maybe it'll help you realize you don't really have control, and maybe that you can, at some point, you start to laugh at yourself. You smile because you realize that the universe does have you back. And it's just, look, a lot of people are going through things, and I understand that. But if in the craziness and the emotion, you can just slow down and ask and just see that in places the universe has supported you in ways that you may have not expected, maybe with people coming into your life, maybe with just sudden changes, maybe with this podcast, who knows? But also, there's lots of other things you can do, like giving back, asking how you're here to serve, acts of kindness, kind of thinking about the people in your life and are they serving you, and making sure you have a community that holds you and supports you. And, all of that is really important. Journaling is so powerful of releasing. And it's that being in the moment is really having practices that guide and help you to be present in the moment, which is why all the things we've suggested today, in terms of doing some sort of physical activity, especially in nature, and just meditation and being present, being focused, all of those things are really about you being present in the moment. And if you're present in the moment, then you'll realize and you'll trust that universe. And it's just, maybe something else you can do is just allow yourself to lean back and just feel how much your guides in the universe are supporting you. Just, if you can truly feel the magic around you, just close your eyes and breathe. Then maybe that will help you realize that you are being supported. Look, I'd love to know what my future holds. I've felt like there's something. I know there's things changing in me. I know we're creating things and the rest of it, but I feel that things are changing inside me, around me, and sure, there's a part of me that wants to know what it is. There's a part of me that what the future is going to hold, but also there's a part of me that knows I'm not meant to know. And I really feel that for most of us, our guides, the universe, show us glimpses of what the future holds, but doesn't give us the full picture, because maybe that full picture will consume us. Maybe it's too much. So being in the moment and appreciating the moment, experiencing life. Because if you knew everything that's going to come, then you wouldn't experience life, right? So always remind yourself you're a soul having a human experience. So Stacey, as we close this episode out, you know what I'm going to ask you. And I know I've dropped some general prompts in along the way just because I felt I'm coming through. But let's, finish with a couple. So any final bits of advice you have and a couple of general prompts for our listeners would be awesome.
Yeah. So I think, what does surrender look like to you? I think is a great place to start. What does surrender look like to you? And what would happen if you let go and allowed the universe to show you where you're meant to be? So we just talked about illusion being, or control being an illusion. And so if you were to relinquish your control, or the control that you think that you have for whatever is next, what would that look like? And maybe reflect on some times in your life where you did surrender and do the trust fall, and what happened during that time. Because sometimes we need to be reminded of things that have happened in the past to work for our highest good, in order to bring us into a space of the present and recognizing that things are still going to be for our highest good, right? So when was a time where you surrendered and the universe had your back? And write about that and see what that looks and feels like. What do you think, Nims?
Love it. I love it. It's powerful, powerful. And the other thing that comes to mind, and I love the mentorship program we offer. Sometimes I wonder why we don't talk about it more on this podcast, because it is life changing, and the conversation flows on this podcast that we just channel it, and but the mentorship program we offer really does help with this sort of stuff. It helps you to remove the layers of who you are to truly become who you're meant to be. We've seen some profound changes in people that's just so deep, and their whole lives have changed. They've created new businesses, they've started new starts, and there's so much joy in what we do, and it just should also come with a health warning, because we do some deep work. But when I think about this topic, if you need some help, then reach out, book a free discovery call. We love what we do. We'd love to work with you. We can take you through. It's free. The discovery call is free. We'll take you through the program. Honestly, if any of our voices, if you want to work with both of us, if you want to work with one of us, if a voice resonates with you at a heart level, then do reach out. We love this stuff. It's just beautiful. I wake up every morning thinking I get to do this. It's just, it's beautiful. I mean, I've done a couple of readings today, and it's just connecting to people's souls. Booking a Akashic record reading. Remember, that's the other thing. But just reach out. We're here to support. We can feel the pain that's happening in the universe, and we love what we do. We'd love to guide you. Reach out. Maybe we can help.
Yeah. And recognize that it's something that you're not meant to do alone. I think so many people think like, am I weak because I can't figure it out? Or am I not strong enough because I can't figure it out? My friends, if no one has taught you how to do the things that we're talking about, how would you know how to do it? How would you? It's kind of like the topic that's been coming up lately for me is self-love. And if you've never been taught how to love yourself, how would you know how to love yourself? And though that seems like a basic concept, it's not. A lot of people in this world don't know how to love themselves. They don't know how to care for themselves. And if you don't know how to do those foundational things, how do you expect to move forward successfully? But the beauty is there are people out there like myself and Nimesh who help people like you on a regular basis. And it's something that we're passionate about. And if you're not even sure what you need, the greatest place to start is a free discovery call. There's no obligation to you. You get on the call and we have a conversation and figure out where you are and what you need. And from there, we can figure out if we're meant to help you or not. So if you're in a space right now where you're not happy with where your life is, what do you have to lose by exploring something new?
Beautiful. Well said. And, you'll hear me say things like, everything you need is inside you. But that doesn't mean you don't need guidance to whatever's inside you. And that's what if you heard me through this podcast, I've said things like, Stacey, it's easy for me to see what's happening to you because I'm outside, right? It's like, so, yeah. And Stacey so eloquently put, just reach out to us. And, Stacey, as we close this episode out, I'd love for you to share any final bits of information, but also know that you have a subscription service I think you're launching soon. So why don't you help close us out by talking about anything that's in your heart, but also sharing what you've got coming up.
Yeah. So through a lot of soul searching, I feel like I have really longed for community. And I feel like community has been a huge factor in not just my healing, but in the healing of others. And so I wanted to cultivate a group for women that would help them on their journey to healing. And I wanted to specifically focus on women because I guess that's part of where my passion lies, is in going through seasons of transition, whether it's that you are thinking that you're experiencing awakening, but you're not quite sure what's happening, whether it's that you're going through the end of a relationship, a divorce, whether you're facing a career shift and you're not sure what's happening. I have created a monthly membership. The beta pricing right now is $30 a month. That price will be going up soon. But the goal was not to, make it a conflicting decision for people. I wanted it to be an easy decision that, you know what, I can afford $30 a month. And what's included in that is 2 live sessions. One will be instructional on something like journaling, self-love, self-care, surrender, embracing the now. Those are some of the topics. Topics are mapped out for the whole year. The other live session will be a Q&A and oracle card readings. And then in addition to that, I'll be releasing 1 meditation a month, and I'll be releasing journal prompts every month. So you'll have access to a community that's supportive of like-minded people who are experiencing some of the similar things that you're going through, and it will give you a space to process those things. So if this is something that you're interested in being a part of, reach out. You can find me through my Instagram. You can find me through my website. You can find me through my email. We will be launching this program in the middle of August, and I am super excited about it. And for anybody right now who is going through a season of change, I just want you to know you're not alone. It can feel super isolating. It can feel scary. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel stressful. But Nims and I have worked really hard to bring about programs that help people just like you. And we're here to support in any way that we can.
Thank you, Stace. Thank you. And yeah, if the program that Stacey is starting appeals, please do reach out to her. And like we've been talking about, if anything that we said resonates at our heart level, please do reach out. I love this podcast and the impact it's having. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is an interesting time, and be kind to yourself. I really do hope this episode has touched and impacted you and touched your heart in some kind of way and impacted you to change in some kind of way. Do let us know. We love receiving those DMs where you provide us feedback. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, please let us know. We are trying to expand this podcast by having more guests, so you'll continue to see Stace on the podcast, but also be mixed in with some guests. It's just nice to get different perspectives and a different reach, and hear different voices. So we always vet the guests. They're always, well, I want to make sure they're appropriate, but we really do want to affect and impact people, as many people as we can. Sending so much love and light out to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Stacey. Podcast won't be where it is today. I won't be who I am today without you. So thank you for being you. And I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Another great episode, Nims. I love our time together and our greatest desires to make an impact. And I really believe that we've done that. So thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you. Bye for now.